Have you ever wondered about the true nature of God? Since the dawn of humanity, the figure of God has been a mystery wrapped in various interpretations. Different religions and traditions around the world have tried to unravel this enigma. Sacred texts, doctrines, and philosophers have dedicated themselves to making sense of the divine, seeking a connection with something beyond the material world. But can we truly comprehend the entirety of God with our human perception? What if everything we know is just a limited reflection of the divine reality? Ancient sages have bequeathed us fragments of fascinating knowledge about an essence that transcends names and definitions, a presence beyond any human concept. Yet, we humans persist in giving this mystery forms and characteristics, trying to shape it according to our own perceptions and limitations. In doing so, we may be diminishing the grandeur of this supreme being, attributing to him traits that we understand only in human terms. The contradiction becomes evident when we try to humanize God, projecting our own feelings and impulses onto him. We speak of an all-powerful and infinite God, but at the same time, we give him personality traits as if he were subject to the same emotions as us. This conception leads us to create a figure of God who loves and hates, who is merciful but also judgmental. This duality seems to contradict the idea of an absolute and perfect being. How could the infinite behave with such disparate and limited emotions? By humanizing God, we end up constructing an image that cannot capture his true essence, creating a series of paradoxes and conflicting interpretations. Perhaps we are merely projecting our own dilemmas and limitations onto something that, by definition, is beyond all limitation. Hermetic philosophy offers a view of the universe that challenges our conventional understanding. According to Hermeticists, the universe is not just a collection of separate objects and events, it is, in fact, a mental manifestation, a grand thought in action. Everything we perceive would be just an extension of the mind. If we consider this idea, then God would also be part of this concept, a formless and infinite mind that creates and sustains everything that exists. Thus, God would not be an entity with a face or form but something deeper and more abstract, a kind of cosmic equation that can never be fully solved but contains within itself the necessary elements for all creation. It's as if God were the unifying field of all things, without limits, without form, but with an intelligence that permeates everything. This concept challenges our senses and our logic, as we are limited beings trying to understand something that transcends any category or definition. Our intellect, despite being powerful, is finite and conditioned by our human experience. Trying to understand God using only the rational mind is like trying to capture the vastness of the ocean in a small teacup. The very notion of infinity escapes our understanding. We can conceive the concept of infinity, but we can never fully comprehend it. This limitation becomes clear when we try to apply our logic and concepts to something as grand as God. Our thoughts, no matter how profound, are still limited by the conditions of our human existence and, therefore, incapable of fully grasping the absolute. Perhaps it is necessary to transcend the rational mind to approach a true understanding of God, something that can only be directly experienced, not explained in words. The quest to understand God is a spiritual journey, an inner adventure that goes beyond theories or concepts. This path is not easy, but those who are willing to explore it are invited to abandon their limiting beliefs and open themselves to new possibilities. What if God could be felt, experienced directly, instead of just intellectually understood? Perhaps there is a way to access a deeper and truer perception of the divine. This journey leads us to question everything we think we know about reality and ourselves, challenging our most basic assumptions. By opening up to this experience, we can begin to see life in a new light, where everything is interconnected and the sense of separation is merely an illusion. The true understanding of God may not be something that can be explained or learned but something that needs to be lived. The lack of self-knowledge is the biggest obstacle to understanding God. Until we know our own essence, we can never truly understand the divine nature. According to ancient spiritual teachings, the path to knowing God first involves knowing oneself. It is through exploring our own soul that we can find reflections and clues about the divine. The connection with God is personal and internal, not something that can be obtained through external knowledge or rigid doctrines. Each person has a unique journey to discover their own nature, and through this quest, we begin to understand that the divine essence is not separate from us but is, in fact, within each one of us. When we experience this unity, we begin to see God in a much more intimate and true way. You are the very essence of life, which is God, although it has descended in consciousness. This phrase suggests that the divine spark is already present in each of us, but for some reason, our consciousness has been diminished or obscured. Many spiritual traditions affirm that we come into this world to live a human experience and, for that, we need to temporarily forget our true divine nature. This descent in consciousness is a journey of learning, where we experience limitations, challenges, and pains. However, even immersed in this reality, the divine essence remains latent within us, waiting to be rediscovered. Thus, we are not disconnected from God, we are only temporarily veiled. And as we elevate our consciousness, we begin to access this essence again and perceive that we are, in essence, an expression of God. Neville Goddard, a mystic and spiritual teacher, proposed the idea that God took on a human form so that we, as humans, could achieve an understanding of our divine nature. This thought reflects the belief that the divine is living a human experience through each of us, and our purpose is to rediscover this divinity within ourselves. The phrase suggests an interesting inversion. God is not just above us, observing us from afar, He is living and experiencing reality through each of us. This concept leads us to question our perceptions of separation and limitation, pointing to the possibility that we can transcend our limitations and, in a way, become God by recognizing our own divine essence. It is a call to realize that divinity is not something distant but something that pulses within every human being. Human life, with all its difficulties and challenges, can be seen as a journey of spiritual growth. The idea of descent in consciousness suggests that we come to this world to go through a series of experiences that teach us about love, loss, overcoming, and self-knowledge. These sometimes painful experiences are the fires of affliction that shape our soul and help us achieve a deeper understanding. By living through these situations, we have the opportunity to evolve and connect with our divine essence. The human journey is not a mistake or a punishment, it is a necessary path for us to remember who we truly are and, thus, to rediscover God within ourselves. Every difficult experience becomes a learning opportunity, a chance to elevate our consciousness and move closer to the divine that resides within us. Have you ever wondered why we suffer? The answer might surprise you. Suffering is part of the human experience, but its deeper reason is that we have not yet found our true nature. Imagine that within each of us resides unlimited power, the very essence of God. When we find it, the pain disappears, replaced by the sensation of infinite possibilities. Neville Goddard, the famous mystic, experienced this personally during a deep meditation. He described God as a combination of infinite power and love. The truth is that we cannot see or touch Him because any form we try to give Him limits His infinitude. Paradoxically, by seeking God outside of us, we create the illusion of separation and suffering. What if I told you that God is closer than you think? If you live, breathe, and think, He is already within you. There is no life, consciousness, or anything outside of God. It is like the great secret of the universe, continuously revealing itself to us. Think about it, where would God draw the material to create life if not from Himself? Everything that exists is part of this great divine totality. Isn't that an extraordinary perspective on our existence? Don't you realize that an infinite mind cannot truly be divided? That's why Hermeticists said that everything is a dream, and you are the dreamer within the dream of everything, dreaming your own dreams. When you realize that you are dreaming, you will no longer suffer, because you have found the dreamer within the dreamer, who evokes all kinds of illusions to keep the dream going. When you awaken, you will no longer be afraid and will begin to transform the nightmare into a heavenly dream. Jesus revealed this: the kingdom of heaven is within you. But the pulpit made this kingdom a place outside of you, distant from your reach, amidst the condition of being a sinner. Sin, as defined by Neville Goddard after years of studying the true meaning of the Gospels, is missing the target. While you assume something that is not, you miss the target. While you identify with the limited human self, you miss the target. And while you seek God outside of yourself, you miss the target and remain forever lost in this seemingly uncontrollable nightmare that appears to be outside of you because you have not yet found Him. The only one who lives, the only one who is conscious, the only one who exists and shapes everything into existence. Have you ever wondered what our place is in this vast and mysterious universe? Nikola Tesla, a genius and visionary, had a fascinating answer to this. According to him, we are nothing less than the presence of God at a specific point in time and space. Think about it: your consciousness, your ability to think and feel, is not a coincidence, it is a divine characteristic that you share with the Creator Himself. What if I told you that, in reality, there is only one conscious being, and the entire external world is an illusion? Sounds like science fiction, doesn't it? But it is exactly what ancient doctrines and contemporary theories suggest. God simply is, and we are part of Him. Imagine that you live in God's body, experiencing life as a human being. You feel separated, but in reality, you are one with God, just as Jesus said, "I and the Father are one." Nikola Tesla went even further, stating that the gift of mental power comes from God. If we focus on this truth, we will adjust our power. Imagine that God is the great director who animates the entire scene around you, and you are the main actor in your life. You have the power to direct it. Isn't that an exciting perspective? Imagine that the whole world is a huge theater stage. In the background, many things are happening to make the spectacle of life seem real and fascinating. But you are the protagonist of your own play. Your beliefs, thoughts, and decisions are like a director's instructions that guide the plot of your life. Remember when Jesus asked His disciples, "And you, who do you say I am?" This question is fundamental for you as well. Who do you think you are? Your answer to this question has incredible power. It shapes your reality. Contrary to popular beliefs, your life trajectory is not predetermined by a distant divine force. It is you, or rather, the part of you that we can call the self, who is the true architect of your experience. But beware, this inner self is often limited by our ego, that part of us we consider our true self. Think of your life as a fascinating story. Your beliefs, experiences, and self-conceptions create the plot of this story. And, just like in a good book, you cannot suddenly introduce elements outside of the previous narrative. That's why it is so important to consciously shape the story of your life. Isn't that an exciting perspective? You have the power to change your life by changing the way you see yourself and the world. Imagine that your mind is like a powerful magnet. If it's focused on poverty, it attracts poverty. But what happens if you adjust this magnet to wealth? It's like changing the channel on a TV, suddenly, you see a completely different program. Similarly, a deeply religious person who believes in an external God can receive help, but only within the limits of their faith. Fascinating, isn't it? The ancient sages, called Hermeticists, discovered something incredible. They stated that speech and the mind are divine gifts that make us equal to immortal gods. Imagine that within you exist the hidden powers of God Himself. Sounds like a superhero story, right? But it is not science fiction, it is the potential you have within yourself. Think of your life as a dream that you can shape. Your thoughts and words are like magical spells that create your reality. That's why the ancient sages advised, think only of what is good and worthy. It's like the saying, you are what you eat, but in a mental version, you become what you think. Now, imagine that within you exists a formless and malleable energy. It takes the shape of your thoughts and beliefs, shaping your life experiences. Does it seem unlikely? Yet, that's what ancient teachings suggest. So, how about being courageous instead of limiting yourself? Imagine a life better than anything you know. It's like painting the canvas of your life with the brightest colors. Who knows, maybe that's how you discover your own kingdom of heaven, a state of extraordinary fulfillment and joy. Isn't that an exciting perspective? You have the power to shape your reality. What do you intend to do with it?